The oppressive scent of amber and rosewood clung to Zara like a second skin, a heavy veil woven from the Majlis's opulent perfumes. Here, amidst the hushed reverence of her family's grand gathering, she was a silent specter, adrift in a sea of brocades and gold. Sunlight, fractured through stained glass, painted fleeting jewels across the polished marble floor, illuminating faces alight with conversation, laughter, and the gentle clinking of porcelain. Yet none of that warmth reached her, huddled on a low velvet divan, a forgotten shadow in the vibrant tapestry of tradition. Her hands, small and almost translucent, rested in her lap, fingers tracing imaginary patterns on the silk of her simple dress. The intricate arabesques carved into the mahogany paneling seemed to mock her stillness, each swirling line a testament to a world of movement she no longer inhabited. 2 years had passed since the accident, 2 years since her laughter had been extinguished, leaving behind only this hollow echo. Her eyes, once brimming with an almost fierce curiosity, now held a distant, almost vacant quality, reflecting the grandeur around her without truly seeing it. The chatter of distant relatives, a melodic hum of Arabic, blended into an indistinguishable drone, a constant reminder of the life that flowed on without her. A tremor, barely perceptible, passed through her, a phantom chill born of lingering pain and an even deeper loneliness. She yearned for connection, for a touch, a glance that acknowledged the girl beneath the quiet facade, but the faces that passed were either pitying or absent, caught up in their own celebrations. She was an exquisite, forgotten ornament in the lavish hall, a delicate figurine of sorrow. Then, a soft voice, like the gentle rustle of silk, broke through her solitary reverie, a hand resting lightly on her shoulder, warm and real. "My precious one, why are you sitting here all alone?" The silence after Khalid's sudden appearance pressed on the grand atrium, mocking the recent laughter. His eyes, still wet from the brief miracle he had seen, widened as his son Tariq retreated into the familiar shell of apathy. The joy that had bloomed died, leaving a deeper ache. His gaze, heavy with accusation and a new confusion, fell on the young woman kneeling by Tariq's silent wheelchair. Her posture was humble, but graceful. Her hand rested near his arm, a small warmth against the cold void. Khalid's voice, usually commanding, came as a hushed, hesitant question, a rare vulnerability. "Who are you?" he asked, the words cutting the quiet, demanding an explanation for the sudden wonder and its abrupt disappearance. Layla rose slowly, composed. She met his stare with steady, respectful eyes that held quiet empathy. "My apologies, Sheikh Khalid. I am Layla, a new domestic assistant. There was an oversight in my formal introduction," she said, soft but clear, a calm presence amid the turmoil. Khalid, used to deference, found himself drawn to her quiet assurance. She adjusted a stray strand of Tariq's hair with a light, tender touch. No pity, no forced cheer. Then murmured to him about the designs on his blanket, speaking as if to a perfectly ordinary child. Her voice acknowledged him without demanding a response, bypassing the trauma-induced silence. It was unconventional, far from the detached professionalism that had marked his care these last 2 years. A new realization shifted Khalid. He saw Layla treating Tariq not as a broken relic, but as a child worthy of respect and genuine interaction. No theatrical sympathy, no forced attempts to provoke reaction, only an authentic, quiet connection that seemed to slip past his son's defenses. A fragile hope stirred in Khalid as he recognized the genuine tenderness in Layla's perceptive eyes. Despite Tariq's regression, he felt drawn to this unassuming woman who had briefly pierced his son's silence. Straightening his imposing frame, he reclaimed some authority, though a trace of vulnerability lingered. "Stay," he said, the single word a reluctant concession and a quiet command. "But you must be careful with him. He is fragile." His voice trembled with paternal fear. Layla's face remained serene, but her gaze hinted at disagreement. Looking at Tariq's small, still form, she saw a different truth. Fragile in the ordinary sense, a spirit bruised by loss. Yes, but more acutely, profoundly lonely, aching for a connection that met his hidden world without judgment. In that silent moment, in the atrium's fading light, a quiet promise took shape in her heart. She would tend not only to his needs, but to his isolated spirit, coaxing laughter, and whispered words from his solitude, reminding him he was seen and heard even in silence. The marble space, once a stage for despair, now held the delicate outline of an unconventional hope, sketched by empathy that could carve new paths through grief. A silent promise, woven into the city's darkening embrace, settled between them, a fragile thread connecting their sorrows. Layla felt the warmth of Khalid's touch linger after he withdrew his hand, an unexpected comfort amid unaddressed pain. The atrium, once an echo chamber for her solitude, now hummed with the ghosts of their unspoken yearnings, a space momentarily consecrated by shared vulnerability. She watched him rise. His tall frame was imposing, yet tenderness remained in his eyes, a stark contrast to the distant authoritative figure she usually met. The weight of his grief, subtly revealed, drew her in, a quiet testament to a man burdened by more than royal duties. The idea of deceit rippled in the air, a phantom chill beneath the golden light of the fading day, adding apprehension to their nascent connection. They walked together, footsteps soft against polished marble, a synchronicity both natural and unsettling. The grand hallways, usually a blur of ornament, now held heightened significance. Each tapestry and arched doorway witnessed their slow progression. Her mind, usually consumed by Tariq's plight, drifted to the Sheikh's hidden sorrow. How his composure cracked just enough to reveal the man beneath the mantle. It was a rare glimpse into a soul that carried burdens perhaps heavier than her own. The palace, once a symbol of gilded entrapment, transformed into a labyrinth of shared human experience, where even a sheikh felt the sharp edges of loss. As they neared the garden, the scent of night-blooming jasmine intertwined with cooler evening air, a fragrant counterpoint to lingering tension. Sunset bled into twilight, indigo and soft violet, mirroring the complex emotions within her. She glanced at Khalid, his profile etched against dying light, a study in quiet contemplation, strength tempered by weariness. His earlier words, "more than you know," rang like a puzzle piece she couldn't place, hinting at a shared history of loss. The thought that he too yearned for Tariq's voice created a new bond, forged in mutual suffering. The garden stretched before them, a manicured Eden charged with anticipation. The fountain's murmur, usually soothing, seemed to whisper secrets. A new awareness stirred in Layla, a shift from passive sorrow to sharper perception of Khalid and the complex web of relationships and expectations that governed their lives. She pondered the sands of deceit he had named, a phrase now less poetic and more like a warning. The air thickened with unspoken truths. Each rustle of leaves, each distant city sound, held hidden meaning. Her path, long defined by grief, now diverged into an unfamiliar landscape where solace and danger blurred. Their intimate moment in the atrium had peeled back a layer, revealing not only Khalid's humanity, but the political and emotional currents beneath the palace's surface. She sensed a grander narrative unfolding, one involving not just Tariq's healing, but the fabric of their world. The fragile hope he offered, comforting yet weighted, tacitly demanded her participation in a story larger than her sorrow. The stars, peppering the velvet sky, watched with a silent, knowing gaze, as if anticipating the intricate dance of fate and will, about to draw her deeper into a destiny she could barely perceive. The coolness of the night air, now a velvet cloak, settled over Layla, deepening the sense of unfolding mystery. The garden, once a tranquil refuge, now felt charged with a silent hum of imminent change, a subtle vibration beneath the manicured perfection. Each shadow cast by the low-slung desert moon seemed to stretch, hinting at truths yet unrevealed, and the very air thrummed with the weight of unstated expectations. She felt a profound shift within her, a quiet awakening that pulled her gaze from the distant, knowing stars to the intricate, immediate tapestry of her surroundings. The palace, a behemoth of wealth and tradition, began to reveal its hidden arteries, currents of power and influence that had always been present, but were now suddenly visible, pulsing with an undeniable urgency. The Sheikh's words, echoing in her mind, had not merely offered comfort. They had extended an invitation, an unspoken challenge to step beyond her personal grief and into a destiny far grander, far more perilous than she had ever imagined. A sudden, sharp clap, resonant and echoing through the vastness of the palace atrium they had just left, cut through the contemplative stillness of the garden. It was a sound both jarring and strangely compelling, a signal that something new had begun. Layla turned, her attention drawn back inside, a flicker of apprehension stirring in her gut. The fragile intimacy forged between her and Khalid seemed to dissipate instantly, replaced by a renewed sense of the public gaze, the watchful eyes of the court and its intricate protocols. This sound was not an applause of celebration, but a deliberate, almost ceremonial summons, pulling her from the quiet contemplation of the garden back into the glittering, often deceptive heart of the royal household. The subtle shift in the atmosphere was palpable. The air, previously thick with shared sorrow, now crackled with a different kind of energy, one of heightened awareness and unspoken agendas. She looked to Khalid, whose posture had subtly altered, losing the tender openness of moments before and regaining the formidable bearing of a ruler. His gaze, though still holding a trace of their shared vulnerability, had sharpened, distant once more. The sound seemed to be a cue, the lifting of a veil, revealing the political currents that always flowed beneath the surface of their lives. Layla felt a sudden, visceral understanding that her quiet life, once defined by the walls of her personal grief, was irrevocably intertwined with the grander machinations of the palace, a realization that both thrilled and terrified her. The path ahead was no longer a solitary one, but a complex, winding road through a landscape she was only just beginning to comprehend. The stars still watched, but now their gaze felt less knowing and more like a challenge, urging her to meet the intricate dance of fate and will with a courage she was not sure she possessed. The palace, once a gilded cage, now felt like the threshold to a stage, where her role and Tariq's were about to be revealed. The air, once thick with the fragrant mysteries of the garden, now seemed to thin, carrying the echoes of that single sharp clap through the vast marble halls. Layla's heart quickened its beat, a drum against the sudden silence that followed, a counterpoint to the distant city sounds. The transformation in Khalid was complete. The warmth of their shared moment had evaporated, replaced by the imposing gravity of his station. His eyes, though still holding an almost imperceptible glint of their recent vulnerability, now scanned the space with a sharp, assessing gaze that communicated command without a single spoken word. She felt the weight of countless unseen eyes. An invisible audience gathered to witness whatever grand pronouncement or pivotal moment this summons heralded. It was as if a curtain had been drawn, revealing the true stage upon which their lives and the fate of Tariq were intricately interwoven with the broader narrative of the royal court. The palace, with its gilded opulence and silent expectations, no longer felt like a mere home, but a labyrinth of influence and unspoken power, where every corridor held its own secret, every shadow a potential intrigue. A figure emerged from the depths of the atrium, stepping into the diffused moonlight that now streamed through the towering windows. It was Minister Hakam, his presence immediately commanding, an aura of austere authority clinging to him like a finely tailored garment. His face, usually a mask of unreadable composure, held a subtle tension, a barely perceptible tightening around his eyes that hinted at urgency. Layla felt a knot of apprehension tighten in her stomach. Hakam's arrival was rarely for trivial matters. His movements in the palace were typically measured, deliberate, and always pregnant with consequence. He moved with a quiet efficiency, his robes whispering against the polished marble floor, his gaze fixed on Khalid. There was a respectful incline of his head, a formal greeting exchanged without words, a language of courtly deference that transcended mere pleasantries. Khalid returned the silent acknowledgement, his posture unwavering, his attention now fully engrossed in the minister's silent communication. Layla, for a fleeting moment, felt herself recede into the background, a mere observer in a drama that was rapidly escalating beyond her immediate comprehension. The air around them seemed to thicken with unspoken meaning, each pause, each subtle gesture, loaded with import. Hakam extended a scroll, its parchment aged and tied with a silken ribbon, a relic of official communication. Khalid took it, his long fingers unrolling it with a practiced ease that betrayed a lifetime of receiving such missives. Layla watched, her breath held, as his eyes scanned the script, the subtle flicker of expression across his face, her only window into the document's contents. A tremor of unease passed through her. The shift in atmosphere was undeniable, a subtle but profound alteration from the intimate despair they had shared just moments before. This was not about Tariq's quiet suffering, nor the shared burden of their grief. This was something else entirely, something larger, with implications that seemed to stretch far beyond the confines of the palace walls. The faint scent of jasmine, once soothing, now carried a hint of impending change, a promise that the delicate balance of their world was about to be irrevocably altered. She felt a growing sense of being caught in a tide she could not control, pulled into the intricate dance of power and politics, a silent player on a stage where the stakes were impossibly high. The palace, with its majestic grandeur, had transformed from a stage to a battleground, and she, unknowingly, had just taken her first step onto it. The golden Riyadh sunset, usually a spectacle of tranquil beauty, now bled across the skyline, its fiery hues mirroring the turbulent disquiet in Layla's heart. The knowledge of Samira's profound deceit, a viper coiled within the palace walls, pressed down on her with a chilling weight. Each shimmering reflection on the opulent surfaces of the marble palace atrium seemed to mock the twisted truth Layla had uncovered, revealing a world far more treacherous than its gilded facade suggested. The immense wealth that flowed through Khalid's family, once a distant abstraction, now pulsed with a sinister undercurrent, confirming Samira's true, avaricious motive for her calculated return. Layla gripped the delicate silk of her jilbab, the fabric a flimsy shield against the cold reality that settled around her. Her mind replayed Khalid's sorrowful musings about Noor's accident, his confusion over an experienced driver losing control, the chilling image of a hand on the steering wheel, and Tariq's desperate, silent gestures. The fragmented pieces of the puzzle now locked into a terrifying whole, each click echoing Samira's malevolent intent. The desert rose in its glass dome, once a symbol of Tariq's fragile, isolated spirit, now felt like a stark metaphor for the precarious truth Layla held. Beautiful, yet desperately vulnerable, encased within a fragile barrier. The stakes were impossibly high. Samira's ambition knew no bounds, threatening to sever Khalid and Tariq from anyone who could expose her, leaving them adrift in a sea of lies. The very air, once thick with the fragrant mysteries of the garden, now carried the faint, metallic scent of impending danger. Layla's resolve hardened, a fierce determination igniting within her. She was no longer merely an observer in this unfolding drama. She was a vital piece, a light against Samira's encroaching shadow. Tariq's innocent life, his fragile mind, depended on her. The palace, with its grand hallways and intricate arabesques, transformed from a labyrinth of hidden meaning into a battleground, and Layla, armed with truth, was ready to fight. The quiet hum of the city beyond the palace walls, usually a comforting backdrop, now sounded like a silent countdown. She had to act, and soon, before Samira's web of lies consumed them all, before the oasis of hope she had begun to cultivate for Tariq withered under the desert sun of deceit. The faint glimmer of stars beginning to pepper the darkening sky seemed to watch, not with knowing anticipation, but with an urgent, silent plea. The Riyadh air, thick with jasmine and the city's hum, offered little solace. Zahra, her spirit weathered like desert stone, stood in the marble palace atrium. Sunlight fractured through towering windows, scattering patterns across polished floors, illuminating grandeur that felt incongruous with her inner turmoil. Each echoing step testified to the isolation that clung to her. In a simple, silken jilbab, she seemed to shrink beside opulent tapestries and crystal chandeliers like frozen tears. 2 years since the accident had taken everything. Tariq, silent and still in his sophisticated wheelchair, a child's spirit trapped inside trauma. Zahra's heart ached, her days blurred into muted duties, movements automatic, eyes distant. Memories of Tariq's laughter haunted her, each recollection a fresh wound. She longed to reach him, but his vacant gaze offered no bridge, only a mirror to her despair. A solitary desert rose beneath a glass dome drew her in, beauty forged by harshness, mirroring Tariq's fragile existence. She traced the cool glass, yearning for connection. The palace's gilded opulence felt like a cage. A gentle voice cut the silence. "My sweet, why are you sitting here all by yourself?" Khalid's low concern pulled her from inward torment. He stood tall, Kefia's gold trim catching light, posture commanding yet softened by tenderness. The name on her lips felt foreign. She often sought this corner, The dome's crystalline petals mirrored Tariq's confinement. Khalid knelt, eyes level with hers. "You seem lost, Layla. Is something burdening your heart?" His tone held no judgment, only shared grief. She faltered, words for Tariq choking out. His silence. "It is a burden I cannot bear." The palace's gilded artistry felt like a majestic tomb. Khalid covered her hand. "I understand, Layla. Every day I yearn for his voice." He glanced toward Tariq's closed chamber. Hope and sorrow mingled. For a moment the vast atrium shrank. Their shared vulnerability created fragile solace. Yet beneath the golden light a phantom chill hinted at deceit. They walked through halls where tapestries and arches witnessed their progress. Khalid's composure cracked enough to reveal a man burdened beyond duty. In the garden, jasmine threaded twilight air. His words, more than you know, suggested hidden loss. The vague notion of sands of deceit rippled through Layla's mind. The palace shifted from gilded cage to labyrinth of shared humanity and political currents. A sharp clap echoed, snapping the moment. Khalid's posture reformed into rulerly command. The public gaze returned. Court protocol closed in. Minister Hakam emerged, austere, presence taut with urgency. He extended a scroll. Khalid unrolled it, eyes flickering. The atmosphere altered. This was about more than Tariq's silence. Layla's unease hardened when whispers of Samira's deceit surfaced. The woman's calculated return now looked like avarice cloaked in concern, threatening to sever anyone who might expose her. Layla's resolve ignited. Tariq's life depended on her. The palace, once suffocating, became a battleground where every corridor offered a chance, every shadow a possible ally or adversary. She moved with stealth, learning the court's subtle language, veiled glances, polite smiles hiding edges, silences that spoke volumes. Samira's presence felt predatory. Layla turned observation into purpose. She would gather irrefutable evidence. In quieter wings, among servants' hushed exchanges, she traced anomalies, orders overridden, shifts in provisions, small details aligning into a pattern of manipulation. The administrative corridors smelled of aged parchment and whispers. In the archives, she sifted through ledgers and procurements with steady hands. Hours passed. Then, a ledger, an unusually large fund transfer for a specialist Tariq had never seen, signed with a crude forgery of Khalid's hand. Cold shock gave way to fierce vindication. Samira hadn't only embezzled, she'd manufactured a scapegoat, perhaps even orchestrated narratives to shut down inquiry into Noor's death and Tariq's trauma. The ledger was proof and burden. Layla understood confronting Samira required allies and airtight evidence. She would become a ghost in the palace, turning mundane records into a fortress of truth. The night's lamps cast long shadows as she charted patrols and memorized windows of opportunity. Her purpose, once grief, had become a strategic flame. A week later, as she gently propelled Tariq's wheelchair through the atrium, a doorbell's chime split the air. Khalid hurried to answer. His voice returned, strained. "Tariq, there's someone very special here to see you." A woman entered, statuesque, blonde, piercing blue eyes, the precise image of Noor. Tariq's response was immediate and devastating. A guttural scream of pure terror tore from him. His small body convulsed, tears welling as the past, now horrifyingly present, shattered their fragile hope. The palace's ancient stones, now glowing softly under the myriad lamps, seemed to absorb the city's distant hum, leaving Layla acutely aware of the silence that pressed in around her, a silence fraught with hidden dangers and whispered intrigues. Each shadow that stretched across the polished marble offered both concealment and a potential threat, mirroring the intricate deception she now sought to unravel. Her purpose, ignited by Tariq's silent suffering, burned brighter than any lamp, guiding her through the gilded corridors that once felt like a cage, but now resembled a battleground. She had committed to this path, a quiet warrior against a treachery far more insidious than a visible enemy, and the weight of that commitment settled upon her shoulders, a mantle of grave responsibility. The vastness of the atrium, once overwhelming, now felt like a strategic map, its every archway and tapestry a feature to be navigated with cunning. Layla moved with a deliberate slowness, her senses heightened, every faint scent of jasmine or distant murmur of servants' voices a potential clue. She was learning to read the subtle language of the court, the veiled glances, the polite smiles that hid sharp edges, the silences that spoke volumes. Samira's presence, though unseen in that moment, felt like a constant, chilling breath on the back of her neck, a predatory awareness that demanded absolute vigilance. Layla understood that her greatest advantage lay in her apparent innocence, her perceived role as a grieving relative, a guise behind which she could observe and gather, a quiet storm brewing beneath a serene surface. Her mind meticulously sifted through past encounters, recalling phrases and expressions she had previously dismissed as inconsequential. Khalid's genuine sorrow for Tariq, his palpable confusion over the accident, now served as a stark contrast to Samira's calculated maneuvering, solidifying Layla's conviction that the woman was a wolf in silken robes. The emotional landscape of the palace had transformed. Where once there was only overwhelming grief, now there was a clear, urgent purpose. Tariq's vacant eyes, haunting her waking thoughts, fueled an unyielding drive, transforming her pain into a focused intensity. She walked a tightrope, every step fraught with the risk of exposure. Yet the thought of failure was far more terrifying than any danger Samira could present. The concept of gilded shadows, once an abstract notion, had become a tangible reality. The palace's immense wealth and shimmering surfaces hid a profound darkness, a moral corruption that threatened to consume them all. Layla recognized that her first steps must be subtle, almost imperceptible, like the desert wind shifting grains of sand. Direct confrontation was not an option, not yet. She needed to build an irrefutable case, a fortress of truth strong enough to withstand Samira's cunning. The promise of that new dawn, for Tariq and for Khalid, echoed in her heart, not as a distant hope, but as a visceral, immediate need, a call to arms that resonated in the depths of her very being. This intricate dance of fate and will had claimed her, and with each resolute beat she stepped deeper into the gilded shadows, ready to face whatever intricate deceptions lay in wait, her spirit a silent, unwavering beacon against the encroaching darkness. The palace lamps wove a soft glow through ancient stone, lighting Layla's path as she moved with a new grace, each step testifying to the steel within her. The city's hum, once backdrop to her grief, felt like a living thing, a whisper that might carry secrets or betray them. She knew the weight of her mission, Tariq's fragile life in her hands, demanding vigilance beyond mere observation. The atrium's arabesques and arches transformed under her gaze, every detail a potential key to the labyrinthine deceit she would dismantle. She no longer walked as a mourner, but as a sentinel, her spirit a quiet flame against encroaching shadows. A plan coalesced, intricate as the mosaics, focused on subtle shifts in routine, unguarded moments, the periphery where truth hid. Samira's false smiles and feigned innocence posed a formidable challenge, a viper in elegance. Layla knew her apparent transparency was her best weapon. She would be the quiet, underestimated presence, gathering threads of evidence as inconspicuous as dust motes in golden light. Her memory, once clouded by sorrow, had grown crystal clear, replaying interactions, cataloging gestures, hunting inconsistencies that might betray Samira's venom. The palace, once a gilded cage, became her operational ground, its grandeur offering both camouflage and a stage for the unfolding drama. She moved to the quieter wing, where staff's hum was muted and the light softened, deliberately removing herself from the public gaze. Shadows deepened, corners held the risk of hidden ears. The scent of jasmine, usually calming, carried an edge of anxiety, a reminder of the insidious lies she sought to expose. Her heart, a steady drum, beat with fierce protectiveness for Tariq. His innocent suffering had catalyzed this change. The memory of his vacant eyes, once her deepest pain, now served as an unwavering compass guiding her through the court's treacherous currents. She knew the journey would demand cunning, and an emotional fortitude she was only discovering, a quiet resolve forged by love for her brother and a burning desire for justice. The air seemed to thicken with the weight of unseen truths. She pictured Samira moving these halls, malevolent purpose hidden beneath a veneer of familial concern, a stark contrast to Khalid's genuine anguish. That contrast sharpened Layla's conviction. She must confirm, piece by painstaking piece, the narrative of betrayal, and gather facts to shatter Samira's charade. The scale of Samira's ambition, hinted at by the family's vast wealth, made the task daunting, yet Layla felt a feral determination. She would navigate palace politics, decipher unwritten rules, and turn opulence into an ally. Subtle shifts in the palace's rhythm and servants' demeanor became new information, whispers in gilded shadows. She no longer merely reacted, she sought, shaped her movements with purpose, silence as shield, gaze as probe. Fate and will had not claimed her so much as ignited her. She was now an active participant in a battle for truth, her beacon casting long, challenging shadows. Her path ahead, fraught with danger, stretched with an undeniable clarity. The grand mansion, once a bastion of grief-stricken silence, now throbbed with a different kind of hush, one heavy with unspoken fear. Tariq's small, shuddering body lay curled in his bed, the dampness a stark testament to the night's terror. Khalid found him there, a tiny, distressed form in the cavernous room, whimpering fragments of a name. "Mama! Mama!" the boy whispered into the pervasive darkness, but the sound held no tenderness, no innocent longing. It was a guttural cry of primal fear, a haunting echo of the woman downstairs, the one who so chillingly mirrored the lost Noor. The opulent surroundings, the luxurious silks and intricate arabesques, offered no comfort, only amplified the boy's silent dread. What had been a sanctuary, a potential haven for healing, had twisted into a place of veiled threats and psychological torment. Each ornate detail, once a symbol of prestige, now felt like a link in a chain, binding Tariq within an invisible prison. The air itself seemed to press down, thick with the weight of unseen dangers, transforming the palatial estate into a gilded cage of silent terror, where a child's vulnerability became a weapon in a woman's ruthless game. He yearned for Layla, for her gentle touch and understanding eyes, a desperate, unspoken plea against the encroaching shadow that now permeated their once quiet existence. The desert outside held its breath, awaiting the dawn. The clarity of her purpose, sharp and unyielding, guided her through the quiet hum of the palace's administrative corridors, far from the atrium's display. Here the air carried aged parchment and hushed whispers, a tapestry of muted sounds and shadows more telling than any proclamation. Polished surfaces reflected not empire, but the flicker of her resolve, burning within the dance of light and darkness. Layla moved with deliberate economy, her jilbab a silent cloud on the marble, her gaze sweeping every detail, every servant's hurried step, every ajar door. She searched for anomalies, the smallest deviation that might betray Samira's influence. The palace, once a protector, felt like a living thing whose stones kept secrets she would pry free. She watched the staff, faces split between deference and quiet industry, noticing quick, knowing glances when Samira's name or a veiled reference drifted by. A subtle web, barely visible, woven of fear and complicity, bound those who knew to silence. Layla's heart ached at their gilded cage, recognizing her former paralysis. Her grief transmuted into a steel that let her see past the veneer. Samira's power, she understood, rested not only in ambition, but in cultivating loyalty through intimidation, a quiet dominion of veiled threats and whispered promises. She moved deeper into the labyrinth of service passages, the palace's true pulse. Opulent tapestries gave way to stone, grand arches to functional doors leading to interconnected spaces humming with activity. The air cooled, carrying distant kitchen clatter and murmured conversations. In these unassuming corridors, she hoped to find cracks in Samira's facade. A hushed talk behind a half-closed door drew her. Fragments of words, a name, a warning. She pressed closer, breath held, the scent of fresh bread mixed with anticipation. The voices were careful, discussing a recent change in provisions, a shift that seemed small to outsiders but jolted Layla. A detail she'd noted before, an inconsistency filed away, now reappeared. The conversation implied an override of protocol, a directive from someone with considerable, if unmarked, authority. Her mind linked this thread to the glances and sudden silences. Samira's hand subtly tightening on the palace's workings, manipulating unseen levers of control. Suspicion became concrete. The danger was operational, a slow poisoning of the palace's foundation. She retreated, movements silent, the information a heavy, empowering weight. Each small piece of the puzzle was a victory against the darkness. Tariq's haunted eyes propelled her steps, turning every shadow into potential hiding place, every corridor into a path toward justice. This was only the beginning, a single thread pulled from a vast web. The palace's whispers would guide her. The unspoken truths hidden in plain sight would reveal themselves. Her spirit, once a quiet flame, now blazed with unyielding intensity, ready to navigate deceptions, unravel gilded shadows, and bring truth to the heart of their world, whatever the cost. The vast silence seemed to hold its breath, awaiting her next move. The palace's held breath did not wait for Layla's next step, but for a quieter shift already underway, a ripple of malice from Samira. The air, once charged with Layla's focused determination, subtly distorted under a campaign of quiet sabotage. In the days that followed, Samira, with chilling precision and casual familiarity, began to unravel the fragile trust Khalid had tentatively placed in Layla. Her aim was plain: sever the growing bond between Khalid and Tariq's caregiver, isolating them both within her tightening web. In seemingly innocuous exchanges, she would drop remarks that planted doubt, each word a slow poison into Khalid's vulnerable mind. The opulent halls carried her calculated whispers. Samira's tactics invaded the sacred territory of Tariq's fractured memories. "I overheard Layla speaking to Tariq yesterday," she might confide, voice hushed with manufactured disapproval. Khalid, a child traumatized by loss, shouldn't be given such confusing, almost cruel illusions of his mother's return. It only prolongs his agony, stirs false hope. This fabrication twisted Layla's empathy into something harmful, striking Khalid's paternal protectiveness. He knew Layla meant well, but Samira's words, amplified by his disorientation, planted a new worry. The image of Tariq, prisoner in his mind, waiting in vain for kisses from heaven, filled Khalid with fear that Layla, despite good intentions, might deepen his son's wounds. The palace, once a sanctuary, felt like a stage for a personal drama where every word could be a weapon. Samira moved through its corridors like a phantom architect, rearranging the emotional landscape, building walls of suspicion around Layla, her abaya a silent shroud. Khalid's trust in Layla, once an oasis in his emotional desert, began to waver under the steady onslaught of veiled criticism. He scrutinized Layla's every interaction with Tariq, searching for the detrimental methods Samira implied, his view tainted by the poison she administered. The joyous sounds of Tariq's laughter, coaxed by Layla, now carried an unsettling echo, a discord seeded by Samira's suggestions. Layla, meanwhile, remained absorbed in her investigation of the palace's administrative heart, tracing the mundane yet crucial flow of resources, unaware a more direct assault targeted her character and purpose. She sifted through ledgers and records, hunting Samira's operational footprint, convinced the fight was about corruption alone. The slight reticence in Khalid's gaze, the hesitation in his voice about Tariq's progress, passed unnoticed amid her resolve. The gilded shadows clinging to the walls lengthened, not just with night, but with spreading doubt, threatening to extinguish the fragile light Layla had brought. What had been anticipation of exposing truth turned into the heavy scent of an emotional siege, a silent war on a different front, one Layla had yet to fully perceive. This veiled conflict hung like a heavy veil over the palace, promising unforeseen darkness for the family's fractured future. The palace's vast silence, once merely waiting, now vibrated with tension, a prelude to the storm Layla would unleash for a dawn free of deceit. Her focus narrowed. Each moment was precious in the quiet war against Samira's grasp. Opulent walls felt like a treacherous stage where Layla's role was to expose the villain. Riyadh's night air, thick with unspoken danger, underscored the cold ambition threatening all she loved. Her steps, once hesitant, now carried intent, her senses tuned to the palace's subtle rhythm, the faint echoes of distant conversations, and the play of light and shadow that hid and revealed. Tariq's haunted eyes propelled her, turning every corner into a potential hiding place, every whisper a vital piece of the puzzle. She hunted for truth. The memory of altered provisions hardened her resolve. A crack in Samira's polished facade Layla would pull with precision. The true battle, she knew, was irrefutable evidence. She pictured Samira as a viper in silken robes, weaving lies around Khalid, preying on his grief and trust. A fierce protectiveness for Tariq banished fear. Samira would not win, not while Tariq's fragile spirit depended on Layla's determination. She began her search in the palace's administrative heart, among ledgers and documents. The archives, a labyrinth of shelves holding the kingdom's history in muted parchment and ink, smelled of aged paper and whispered secrets. Layla moved with practiced stealth, eyes darting over labels and dates, seeking Samira's unauthorized influence. The records were daunting, but Layla's determination burned brighter than the flickering lamps. She sought an anomaly, any irregularity to expose Samira's quiet dominion and confirm illicit financial maneuvering. Hours melted into deep night. Her dust-stained fingers sifted methodically through procurements. Then a sharp intake of breath. A ledger, weeks old, detailed an unusually large fund transfer for a medical specialist Tariq had never seen. The signature was a crude forgery of Khalid's, subtle enough to pass casual inspection. This was it. Concrete evidence, a smoking gun of Samira's brazen manipulation and theft. Cold shock gave way to furious vindication. Samira was not merely ambitious, she was a thief. Clutching the ledger, a more disturbing detail surfaced. She recalled senior officials speaking days ago about a confession from a former aide, supposedly admitting negligence in Tariq's accident. Layla had dismissed it then. Now, with the forged signature, the pieces clicked horrifyingly clear. Samira hadn't just embezzled, she had manufactured a narrative, a scapegoat to absolve herself and cement her position. The forged confession was meant to mislead Khalid, to shut down inquiry into Noor's death and Tariq's trauma. Samira's audacity was breathtaking, her cruelty unforgivable. Layla's heart pounded against the archive's silence. This wasn't only financial malfeasance, it was a sinister plot implicating Samira in Tariq's suffering. The ledger's weight felt immense, a physical truth. Khalid, blinded by grief and trust, had been meticulously deceived, his wounds exploited by the person feigning solace. The betrayal was calculated sabotage to isolate him and consolidate power. Layla knew she must act swiftly but with care. Exposing Samira meant confronting entrenched loyalties and a proven cruel adversary. The real battle was beginning. Armed with explosive truth, Layla was ready for the treacherous turns in the gilded shadows. The vast, silent palace seemed to hold its breath, not just awaiting her next move, but anticipating the seismic shift her truth would bring. The vast, silent palace seemed to hold its breath, not just awaiting her next move, but anticipating the seismic shift her truth would bring. A chilling certainty settled in Layla's bones. The forged ledger and fabricated confession were not mere transgressions, but deliberate blows aimed at their world's foundation. Her discovery was a tremor beneath the gilded surface, promising an earthquake. Samira's plot, cold, precise cruelty, unfurled before her like a dark tapestry of greed and betrayal. Khalid's grief, profound and isolating, had been exploited into a weapon against him, and Tariq's silence turned into Samira's strategic advantage. A cold fury ignited in Layla, a resolve brighter than any lamp. She was no longer only protecting Tariq, she was fighting for the soul of their family and the essence of justice. The ledger in her hand was more than paper and ink. It was a burden and a testament to Samira's venom. Each falsely penned digit shouted of malevolence beneath the palace's serene facade. Layla pictured the intricate dance of deception Samira had orchestrated, pulling strings from the shadows, manipulating loyalties, twisting truths for avarice. The palace, with its grandeur and whispered histories, ceased to be sanctuary and became a cunning trap. Samira, its phantom architect. Confronting her without an unassailable plan would be suicidal. Layla needed allies unwavering in loyalty and proof that could not be dismissed by affection or fear. The path was perilous, yet retreat was impossible. Tariq's haunted gaze, a silent plea, echoed in her heart, steeling her against the darkness. When the truth came, it had to strike like a desert storm, leaving no room for denial. Her mind mapped the palace hierarchy, seeking leverage and those who might see past Samira's veneer. Servants, often overlooked, held keys, fragments of truth gathered in daily rhythm. Layla would move with the subtlety of a shifting dune, gathering threads and weaving them into an unbreakable rope of evidence. Danger was immense, Samira had shown she would orchestrate tragedy for ambition. Layla knew she walked into a viper's nest, but the thought of Tariq's lasting suffering and Khalid's blind faith pushed her forward. Under night's cloak, the palace breathed around her, ancient stones absorbing the city's hum, leaving her in heightened silence and hushed anticipation. Every rustle of silk, every creak of timber became a potential clue or harbinger of discovery. The scent of night-blooming jasmine, once comforting, now carried an edge of urgency, a reminder of time slipping away. Layla felt herself shift from grieving observer to active participant, a silent warrior poised to strike. The palace's silence vibrated with tension, a prelude to the storm she would unleash. Her commitment was absolute, a vow to the stones, the stars, and Tariq's suffering spirit. She would bring the truth to light, whatever the cost. The real battle had begun, and Layla, armed with explosive truth, felt unyielding, ready to navigate deceptions and unravel gilded shadows to reach the heart of their world. The vast, silent palace seemed to hold its breath, not merely awaiting her next move but bracing for the upheaval her truth would bring. A chilling certainty settled in Layla's bones. The forged ledger and fabricated confession were not careless crimes, but deliberate strikes at their world's foundation. Her discovery was a tremor beneath the gilded surface, promising an earthquake. Samira's plot, cold, precise cruelty, unfurled like a dark tapestry of greed and betrayal. Khalid's grief had been weaponized, and Tariq's silence became Samira's strategic advantage. A cold fury ignited in Layla. She was no longer only protecting Tariq, but fighting for the family's soul and the essence of justice. The ledger in her hand was more than ink and paper. It was a burden and proof of Samira's venom. Each falsified digit shouted of malice beneath the palace facade. Layla pictured Samira's intricate dance of deception, pulling strings from the shadows, manipulating loyalties, twisting truths for avarice. The palace, with its grandeur and whispered histories, ceased to be sanctuary and became a cunning trap. Samira, its phantom architect. Confronting her without an unassailable plan would be suicidal. Layla needed allies whose loyalty could not be bought, and proof that could not be dismissed by affection or fear. The path was perilous, yet retreat impossible. Tariq's haunted gaze, a silent plea, echoed in her heart, steeling her against the darkness. When the truth came, it had to hit like a desert storm, leaving no room for denial. Her mind mapped the palace hierarchy, seeking leverage, and those who might see past Samira's veneer. Servants, often overlooked, held keys, small truths gathered in daily rhythm. Layla would move with the subtlety of a shifting dune, gathering threads and weaving them into an unbreakable rope of evidence. Danger was immense. Samira had shown she would orchestrate tragedy for ambition. Still, the thought of Tariq's lasting suffering and Khalid's blind faith pushed her forward. Under night's cloak, the palace breathed around her, ancient stones absorbing the city's hum, leaving her in tense silence. Every rustle of silk, every creak of timber could be clue or threat. The scent of jasmine, once comforting, now carried an edge of urgency, a reminder of time slipping away. Layla shifted from grieving observer to active participant, a silent warrior poised to strike. Her commitment was absolute. She would bring the truth to light, whatever the cost. The real battle had begun, and Layla, armed with explosive proof, felt unyielding, ready to unravel gilded shadows to reach the heart of their world. Khalid, meanwhile, drifted in a sea of unease. Samira's presence, once comfort, now felt like a dissonance in his household's rhythm. He noticed inconsistencies, claims of 2 years in Europe clashing with an intimate knowledge of trivial household changes. The placement of a book, the shift in his morning ritual, even his preferred coffee blend. Her absence and familiarity formed a persistent discord that pricked at him. One evening, a quiet disturbance drew Khalid past Tariq's room. The door stood ajar, a sliver of light spilling into the corridor. He paused, then heard it. Samira's voice, stripped of honeyed sweetness, raw and low. "And if you try to tell your father about our conversation," she hissed to Tariq, "I'll have to leave. And you know what will happen? He'll get so sad he might get sick, just like Mama." Khalid froze, bewildered by the manipulative threat. The words twisted his gut. He pushed the door open. Samira, with instant metamorphosis, was humming sweetly, her voice light as a desert breeze, claiming Tariq had been agitated by a dream. Khalid's mind reeled at the abruptness, questioning what he had heard as the battle of light and shadow began its relentless assault within him. The weight of such a truth settled on Layla not as a burden, but as a crucible forging unyielding clarity. Her spirit, once a quiet flame of compassion, now burned with a strategic heat, ready to pierce Samira's lies. The opulent halls became a chessboard in her mind, each arched doorway a vantage, every shimmering surface a reflection of intricate deception. Tariq's haunted eyes were a relentless compass, guiding her through the gilded labyrinth. The palace's wealth, Samira's avaricious target, was a stark reminder of greed, fueling Layla's resolve to protect what truly mattered. She moved through the silent palace with sharpened awareness, attuned to the faintest whisper or a servant's shifted glance. Samira's cunning was formidable, her familial facade almost impenetrable, but cracks were showing, inconsistent tales of time abroad, an unnatural familiarity with recent changes, a chilling threat disguised as concern. Loose threads Layla would tug until the web unraveled. Direct confrontation was not an option. It would undo her and leave Tariq defenseless. Her path was stealth and meticulous gathering, a quiet storm beneath a serene surface, poised to erupt with irrefutable evidence. Layla's gaze rested on the desert rose in its glass dome, its fragile beauty a poignant echo of Tariq's spirit, encased and vulnerable. It became a metaphor for the truth she carried, precious yet contained, waiting for the moment to shatter the glass of deception. Tariq's regression, Khalid's bewildered trust, and Samira's menacing ambition fueled a cold, calculating determination. She would become a shadow, observing, listening, piecing together fragments hidden in plain sight, waiting for Samira's hubris to create an opening. The palace's rhythm, the comings and goings of staff, hushed conversations in distant wings, turned into a language to master, a lexicon of hidden intentions and alliances. She focused on the estate's administrative heart, records of provisions, schedules, communications. In those mundane details, Samira's operational footprint would show: a deviation, an unauthorized directive, a sign of a tightening grip. Layla understood the risk. Samira had shown ruthless willingness to orchestrate tragedy. The threat to Layla's family was not distant, but a pressure beneath her skin. Yet the thought of Tariq enduring fear and silence under Samira, of Khalid blinded by grief and manipulated by a viper, drove her on. This was a silent war fought with intellect and courage, not swords or proclamations. Every measured breath was a commitment, every stolen glance a reconnaissance, every quiet step deliberate toward justice. The palace, with its majestic grandeur, had become a battleground for the heart's true compass, and Layla, a silent warrior, was ready to navigate the treacherous sands of deceit so that the dawn, when it came, would be bathed in truth, whatever the cost. The vast silence seemed to hold its breath, awaiting her first decisive move, a prelude to the storm that would alter the gilded world forever. The vast silence seemed to hold its breath, awaiting her first decisive move, a prelude to the storm that would alter the gilded world forever. Layla felt a profound, almost spiritual connection to this quiet anticipation, as if the very stones of the palace resonated with her singular purpose. Her path, once shrouded in the fog of grief, was now illuminated by the fierce, protective light of her resolve. The labyrinthine corridors, once oppressive, now felt like strategic pathways, each turn a calculated step in a dance with danger. She was no longer merely reacting to Samira's insidious manipulations. She was anticipating them, a silent hunter stalking her prey through the shimmering, deceptive landscape of the royal court. The image of Tariq's innocent, trusting face, perpetually etched in her mind, was both her most potent weapon and her most vulnerable point, a constant reminder of the stakes involved. Her plan, a tapestry woven with threads of stealth and calculated observation, began to unfold. She focused on the domestic rhythms of the palace, the subtle choreography of the staff, the predictable patterns of their duties. These mundane routines, she knew, held the keys to unlocking Samira's hidden agenda. Layla's keen eyes registered every interaction, every hushed conversation, every fleeting glance exchanged between servants. She sought the fissures in Samira's carefully constructed facade, the tiny cracks that would betray a deeper truth. The palace, with its opulent grandeur, became a living document, each room, each object a potential fragment of the puzzle she was meticulously assembling. She moved with an almost ethereal grace, her presence barely a ripple in the gilded halls, a ghost of resolve in a world accustomed to overt displays of power. The scent of jasmine, heavy and sweet, now felt like a veil, a fragrant shroud over the simmering tension. Layla knew that Samira's ambition would eventually lead her to a misstep, a moment of overconfidence that would expose her true nature. Until then, Layla would be the unseen force, gathering her evidence with the precision of a master artisan. She understood that exposing Samira was not enough. She had to present an undeniable truth, a narrative so compelling that it would dismantle the web of lies completely. The weight of this task was immense, yet her spirit, once fragile, now burned with an unyielding intensity, fueled by a love for Tariq that transcended fear. The subtle shift in the palace's atmosphere, the heightened alertness of the staff, the almost imperceptible tremor of unrest beneath the polished surface, all spoke to an impending revelation. Layla, poised on the precipice of action, felt the thrilling, terrifying surge of an approaching storm, ready to usher in a dawn free from the gilded shadows, whatever the cost. Her heart, a drum of fierce devotion, beat a relentless rhythm against the impending change. The quiet hum of the city beyond the palace walls, usually comfort, now sounded like a countdown. She had to act before Samira's web consumed them, and the oasis of hope she had cultivated for Tariq withered under a desert sun of deceit. Stars peppered the darkening sky, an urgent, silent plea that turned fear into purpose. No longer passive, she stood poised on the precipice of action. Tariq's fragile existence felt like a sacred trust. The opulence of the marble palace, once suffocating, became a stage where every corridor offered a chance, and every shadow a possible ally or adversary. Her gaze swept the arabesques. Her mind charted a course through court intrigue. The city's drone sharpened into a symphony of openings. She moved with stealth, her jilbab whispering against polished marble, a contrast to the thundering resolve in her chest. The desert rose, still under glass, no longer symbolized entrapment, but the truth she carried. Once unleashed, it would shatter deceit. Grief receded into cold, calculating determination. The pain remained, a dull ache that fueled focus. Tariq's vacant eyes, the despair that mirrored her own, reminded her what was at stake. Samira's greed cast a menacing shadow over their lives, threatening the family's integrity. Layla pieced together dismissed conversations, veiled glances, sudden silences. Samira's return was a calculated invasion, a slow poisoning. Her advantage lay in apparent innocence, a mask to move unseen while gathering evidence. Urgency pressed like a tide. Every wasted moment let Samira's roots deepen. Khalid, blinded by trust, swelled Layla's protectiveness. As Riyadh slipped into twilight, the palace glowed by 1,000 lamps, its secrets pressed within ancient stones. She could not confront Samira without proof or allies. She needed to observe, listen, collect irrefutable evidence. Tariq's silent plea echoed in her heart. The task felt monumental, but she would find a way. The promise of a new dawn, once distant, now sounded like a battle cry for Tariq's sake. The palace's stones, glowing softly, seemed to absorb the city's hum, leaving Layla aware of a silence fraught with hidden dangers and whispered intrigues. Each shadow across the polished marble offered concealment and threat, mirroring the deception she sought to unravel. Her purpose, ignited by Tariq's suffering, burned brighter than any lamp, guiding her through gilded corridors that now resembled a battleground. She had committed to this path, a quiet warrior against treachery, a mantle settling on her shoulders. The vast atrium, once overwhelming, now felt like a strategic map, every archway and tapestry a feature to navigate with cunning. Layla moved deliberately. The faint scent of jasmine or a servant's murmur could be a clue. She learned the court's subtle language, the veiled glances, polite smiles that hid edges, silences that spoke volumes. Samira's presence, though unseen, felt like a chilling breath demanding vigilance. Layla's apparent innocence was her shield, a guise under which she could observe and gather, a quiet storm beneath a serene surface. Her mind sifted past encounters, recalling phrases she'd dismissed. Khalid's genuine sorrow and confusion over the accident contrasted with Samira's calculated maneuvering. confirming Layla's conviction, a wolf in silken robes. The palace's wealth and shimmer hid a darkness that threatened to consume them. Direct confrontation was not yet an option. She needed a fortress of truth strong enough to withstand Samira's cunning. The new dawn for Tariq and Khalid echoed in her chest as a visceral call to arms. This intricate dance of fate and will had claimed her, and with each resolute beat she stepped deeper into the gilded shadows, her spirit a silent, unwavering beacon against the encroaching darkness. The intricate dance of fate and will had claimed her, and with each resolute beat she stepped deeper into gilded shadows, her spirit a silent beacon against encroaching darkness. A new current stirred within the opulent walls, a subtle shift in the palace's rhythm that signaled urgency. The air, once thick with potential, now vibrated with anticipation, a revelation Layla felt drawing closer. She moved through the grand halls, no longer merely observing but actively seeking, senses honed to the minutiae of court life, where a dropped glance or a too long pause could unravel a thread of Samira's deceit. The marble beneath her feet seemed to whisper forgotten truths. Each step testified to the weight of her mission. She became a cartographer of treachery, mapping the unseen pathways of power and influence that sustained Samira's dominion. Her mind, unburdened by past indecision, sifted through layers of daily interactions, seeking the anomalies that would expose cracks in Samira's illusion. She recalled fragmented conversations, a servant's widened eyes at a casual mention of Khalid's finances, a steward's hesitant response to a directive bypassing protocol. These fleeting instances, once dismissed, coalesced into a chilling pattern, a mosaic of clandestine influence. The palace, with its shimmering surfaces and arabesques, transformed from inherited grandeur into a web of vulnerabilities, each strand a point of entry for Layla's quiet investigation. Samira's strength lay in perceived innocence, in masquerading ambition as familial concern. It was this mask Layla intended to shatter. The city's distant murmur ebbed and flowed with her quickening pulse, a silent accomplice to her clandestine movements. Layla knew her actions, though subtle, carried immense risk. Samira's reach was long, her network of intimidated loyalties deeply entrenched. Yet Tariq's vacant eyes, a silent plea for rescue, fueled an unyielding courage within her. She was a single flame against a rising tide of darkness, her purpose a counterpoint to Samira's avarice. The desert rose, still encased in its glass dome in the atrium, ceased to be merely Tariq's entrapment. It became the fragile, vital truth Layla carried, a truth capable of shattering the glass of deceit imprisoning them all. This was more than a battle for wealth or power. It was a fight for the essence of their family, for the soul of a lineage threatened by a viper in silken robes. She began methodically focusing on the palace's supply chains, the mundane yet critical flow of resources sustaining its lavish existence. Every order, delivery, and signature might reveal an anomaly. Layla pictured herself as a skilled artisan, weaving disparate threads of information into an undeniable tapestry of evidence. The archives, a labyrinth of parchment and ink, beckoned with the promise of proof, the written record of every transaction and directive. She would become a ghost within those halls, sifting through catalogued pasts for the imprint of Samira's avaricious hand, unauthorized orders, diverted funds, financial malfeasance disguised as legitimate expense. It was painstaking work, demanding patience and forensic attention to detail, but Layla was unyielding. Tariq's recovery and Khalid's awakening hinged on her success, and that certainty fortified her resolve, turning grief into an unshakable fortress of purpose. The palace's silent anticipation drew her deeper, inviting her to meet fate's intricate dance with courage forged in the crucible of love. The palace's silent anticipation drew her deeper, inviting her to meet fate's intricate dance with courage forged in the crucible of love. This was more than a battle for wealth or power. It was a fight for the essence of their family, for the soul of a lineage threatened by a viper in silken robes. Layla found herself standing on the precipice of a silent, internal storm, her purpose burning with an intensity that eclipsed any fear. The gilded halls, once a maze of her own personal sorrow, now transformed into a strategic landscape. Each shadow and archway a potential point of entry into Samira's meticulously crafted web. The distant hum of Riyadh, a city that slept fitfully, became a rhythmic counterpoint to the relentless beat of her own heart, a drum of fierce devotion to Tariq's suffering spirit. Her mind, now a finely tuned instrument, began to dissect every interaction, every casual utterance, every fleeting glance that had passed unnoticed. Samira's fabricated narrative of 2 years spent abroad, her intimate knowledge of trivial household changes, the chillingly familiar details of Khalid's new routine, all converged into a clear, undeniable pattern of deceit. Layla remembered a brief, almost imperceptible hesitation from a senior steward when Samira had casually overridden a long-standing protocol regarding household provisions. She recalled the widened eyes of a scullery maid when Samira had dismissed a long-serving gardener for a minor infraction, a decision that felt disproportionate and, now, deeply suspicious. These seemingly isolated incidents, once dismissed as mere ripples in the vast ocean of palace life, now revealed themselves as deliberate manipulations, threads in a dark tapestry being woven by Samira's avaricious hand. The palace itself, a majestic monument to Khalid's lineage, began to reveal its hidden vulnerabilities, its grandeur a fragile shell around a core of simmering intrigue. Layla understood that Samira's power was not solely derived from her resemblance to Noor or her manipulative charm. It was built upon a foundation of subtle intimidation and cultivated fear, a quiet dominion over those too loyal or too terrified to speak. The urgency pressed in on Layla, a tangible weight urging her to move with stealth and precision. Direct accusation would be suicide, easily dismissed by Khalid, whose grief still clouded his judgment. She needed irrefutable evidence, a truth so stark that it would shatter Samira's illusion without question. Her thoughts turned to the palace's nerve center, the administrative offices, the meticulously kept ledgers, the endless scrolls of inventory and expenditure. There, buried within the mundane bureaucracy, lay the operational footprint of Samira's treachery. Layla envisioned herself a ghost within those archives, sifting through the layers of daily transactions, searching for the anomalous fund transfer, the unauthorized procurement, the financial malfeasance disguised as legitimate expense. It would be painstaking, solitary work, demanding a patience she had not known she possessed. But Tariq's vacant eyes, a constant, haunting presence in her thoughts, fueled an unyielding resolve. His recovery, Khalid's awakening from his grief-induced blindness, hinged on her success. As night deepened over Riyadh, the palace lamps cast long, dancing shadows, each flicker a silent testament to the secrets it held. Layla, no longer a grieving observer but a silent hunter, began to chart her course. Every guard's patrol, every servant's shift, every unobserved corridor became part of her strategic map. She was ready to navigate the intricate deceptions, to unravel the gilded shadows, and bring the truth to the heart of their world, whatever the cost. The air, once merely waiting, now vibrated with a palpable tension, a prelude to the storm she was about to unleash, a storm for Tariq's sake.